So hey, it's Father Taylor here, and we're having our last, I think of our discussions and interviews, talking about our relationship to our wealth and how our relationship to God, how that affects our giving. And so today I have with us two of our favorite church folks here at Trinity, Kathy and Dean Zaroli. So good morning to you guys.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, great. So we've had two power outages in our first recordings, so we're going to go quickly. So hey, you guys, have seen that we had the Cheeks got up and talked about how they just look for opportunities to give, and even when their income changes, they're just on the same page. And then we heard kind of like a high production thing that came from the Gilmores, which is now being seen in 37 English-speaking countries and being translated into other languages. There's really great production they did about money.
Yeah.
I told you some stories, some different ones at the last two services we did about my own experience of giving, particularly those little old ladies who really believed, very much believed in the Lord, and their giving was a reflection of that. And so I'd just like to, let's have just a chat just about you guys. So tell me about your, growing up. So I think you guys come from different church backgrounds. So tell me about your church background growing up and how that affected your understanding of giving. So who'd like to go first?
I can go first. So I was raised Catholic, and by the way, it's telling us our internet connection is unstable. So let's hope we can make it through here.
Okay.
So I was raised Catholic, but raised is a probably way too strong of a word. I was confirmed, baptized, confirmed, first communion and all that, but we never went to church. If we went to church 2 or 3 times a year, that was a lot. And giving was just not a topic. When we did go to church, the few rare times, we would stick $2 in an envelope, and that was it, which I always thought was funny because I never could figure out how this, it was an old big Catholic church down in the old part of Enfield. I grew up in Enfield, and massive structure. I could never figure out how they were keeping the lights on in this place if everybody was giving the way we were giving. But anyways, that was my background. It was a very minimal giving background.
Okay. So Kathy, how about you?
Yeah, so I was raised in the Episcopal Church, grew up in Atlanta, and then Ohio, and then Connecticut. And we always gave. It was something I was taught. Children were given envelopes, giving envelopes, and we would give. I will confess, as I'm thinking this through, I didn't learn the sacrificial giving aspect until a rector at a church challenged me to really think through, all of Christ's teachings about giving and sacrificially.
So what do you mean by sacrificial giving?
Where it wasn't after everything else, it was really the first giving, and you thought about it before anything else. Because in our background, we're both CPAs, and we're good with numbers. We like numbers, and we're good with budgets, and we had certain things we were going to do. And giving was definitely not first. And so I felt challenged and convicted, and I came on board and wanted to do the thing, the 10%, the tithing. And then things got heated.
Yeah. So that's fascinating.
The year, so we used to spar with these on, but that was the year the gloves came off. I forget what year that was.
So I got 2 CPAs who come from very different kind of backgrounds, particularly around money and giving.
Yeah.
And so, hey, it's time for pledging. And you want $2 or 5, And so what an interesting thing. So over the years, how did you guys determine what you were going to give?
Not easily.
There were a lot of very intense discussions. And I mean, we're definitely different than the others that have spoken.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I met Kathy, she was the start of my journey to Christ. I mean, that's just a fact. And because I had really no relationship, I was raised Catholic. Like I understood it, and it was this concept out there. But with Kathy, she really began my journey. And and a big part of it was the giving journey, honestly.
I give an example of something that happened that was fascinating. We were going to a fundraiser for Trinity, Kateri, and the instructions given to me by him on the way there, which, was a sacrifice for him to go. His instructions were, don't ask me for money. Don't ask me to give. I'm just going. And I literally prayed to God and said, I don't want to fight. You're in charge of him. I don't want to fight with him about money. So I'm going. We go there, we listen to everything that's presented, and God moved in him. And he's like, we're pledging for 3 years and we're giving the maximum. And I'm like, okay, God.
No, that's an absolutely true story. And it's a little sad. And I asked Kathy if I could call myself derogatory terms during this, but she said, don't do it. Because I deserve some, pointed at myself, but that's a great example. And, so for me, it's been like a learning journey, and it's been how I've been moved for certain things,
Well,
but
let me ask you that question. So for
Yeah.
instance, you talk about Kateri, and all you need is one eyewitness account of anyone that's ever gone there and seen like what they don't have when it comes to medical stuff and human suffering. And then you see the impact of $10, $50, for Kateri, and it's just immediate.
Oh
Like
my
it goes
God.
right to a person. Right to a person, and about 99%, of it is actually the very product. And now you come to church, and church pledging, which covers like well, to me, when I first came to Trinity, I thought, Tom said, you want Trinity to still be the home base of Kateri. I said,
Mm.
absolutely. And so for me, it was something, when I give, I think about Trinity of all the ministries. Kateri is a ministry, and
Yeah.
the foundation of Kateri comes from the community here at Trinity. And if the community at Trinity starts to break down, what happens to the giving for Kateri? So that's one of the
Yeah.
ways I think about it. But it's very different given to a church budget, where you're thinking about staff salaries and lights on and, emptying gutters and all kinds of things, and giving right away for human need. So I'm just kind of curious, like when it comes to like the Kateri, very compelling, and then you come to like, hey, annual church giving. Like, how does that, is there a difference? And you said how you feel moved. Like, what would you say the purpose of Trinity Church is? How about this for an abstract question you weren't waiting for?
Well, I see us as continuing to do the mission, which in my mind is we're to make disciples and to build the kingdom. And that's like I've heard that loud and clear in my life.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think it's spread the word of God, right? And there's so much evil and distraction in this world that anything good you can do to counteract that is a major thing in my eyes. But I think what you said resonates with me, because our conversation, the thing I had a hard time getting over was, our pledge is going to keep the lights on, right? And that was just like a completely novel concept to me. Again, getting back to my Catholic upbringing. But over time, you get older, you get wiser, you mature. And, now I'm like, I personally am so far away from our pledges about keeping the lights on. And it's more about, I'm thankful for what God has blessed us with. I'm thankful for the message of God. I want to make the world a better place. I want humans to be nicer to one. So I view it much more that personally, I view it that way, that our pledge is going for that reason, not to keep the lights on at Trinity Church.
That's interesting. So we've been meeting in the parking lot for 20 months. And sometimes I say on one of these beautiful mornings and you hear birds and it's just a wonderful place to be. I'm like, Lord, do we really need this building? But the building itself is part of like the way the ministry works, and hopefully in this year we can think of new and more creative ideas of how to allow other people to be using our building. So their building itself is a ministry in and of itself. So anyway,
Absolutely.
so we could talk a lot more, but I'm just thankful that the electricity hasn't gone off in your house again. So I'm going to cut this off so we don't have to re-record it for the 4th time. So, hey guys, thanks so much for jumping in. I appreciate your honesty. And, I just remind you that the white part of the gloves, that's what makes the impact. Don't be like scraping each other, with like the laces. There's a reason for that. So anyway, hey, so thanks again, Kathy and Dean. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you guys on Sunday.
Very good.
Thank you.
Nice
Bye.
talking to you.